Well, everybody, welcome to the PRPG.mx Visiting Artists series. These run in conjunction with exhibitions that are occurring in the gallery currently. Also, we have a huge library of interviews in our YouTube channel. So if you go to the PRPG.mx website, you will see that we do have a link here to the YouTube channel. And when you go into the YouTube channel, you'll see that there are tons of videos. We have at least, oh my gosh, I don't even know. There's just so many wonderful interviews here with a queer and queer allied artists within our community. And you can check out some of the artwork from many of our artists. We are running a print sale from some of the exhibition stuff that is still in our storage at the moment. So there's some great prices out here on some really, really beautiful artwork that helps to support the residency. But here on our website, you can find all the information about what's happening currently at the residency, different exhibitions that we're having. So currently we're showing Edgar Takoyaki, whom we're speaking with today. We have Alexandra on Artsy right now with a beautiful series of self-portraits that are made in wood and many different things. So please feel free to check out the website and apply if you're interested in being part of the community. We do have this wonderful residents-only area that is locked down. And inside of there, we have all kinds of resources about writing grants and finding gallery shows and resources that other residents have shared with us over time. So that is all there for you. Today, we are talking with Edgar Takoyaki. Edgar, could you tell me how to say your name? Everyone here will tell you that I am the worst when it comes to names. So I apologize for making your name, bastardizing your name as it were.
No problem. It's Edgar Takoyaki.
Takoyaki. Okay. Takoyaki. It's exactly how it's spelled, but exactly. I have all these like language issues going on. So I sometimes like Zahava is one of our residents, and I have to, before every time I know I'm going to meet with Zahava, I have to write her name 3 times in blue ink on my paper so that I can try to remember to say it correctly.
No problem.
Anyway, I'm so happy to have you here today and hear more about the work that you've done, and also about like the documentary and like where all this stuff comes from. Edgar, can you tell us, the way we're going to do this is I'm going to talk to you individually for a little bit, and we'll look at your work and things, and then we're going to open it up to the residents so that they can pose questions as well. So
awesome.
There will be time for everyone to ask questions. I have muted everyone else just to make it a little bit easier, and because we pick up a lot of background noises that can become really distracting as well. So, so Edgar, where are you in the world right now?
I am in Ventura, California.
Ah, great. Well, I lived in Ventura, California for, well, I was in Ojai for 2 years, and then the last year I was down in Ventura.
Nice. When was
that? Very familiar. I left 3 years ago to return to Mexico City, so not too long ago. Yes.
Okay, so we were around here at the same time then. Right,
and I had a studio at H Gallery, which is how I met Jessica, which is the tie that we have here. The show that Edgar is doing with us is actually being presented in 2 gallery spaces. Is it actually being presented right now in the other gallery space? Has that happened, or?
I'm not sure if it's up yet. I know she has the prints. The prints just got made, so I think it's going to be up soon. She's still waiting to open it up for appointment-only viewing.
Right, and I think, you know, this has been our issue the entire time with all the closures and all the difficulties and things. Even just getting something printed by a really, you know, by a quality press, of course. I mean, you could walk into Kinko's or something anytime you want to.
Yeah.
I suppose. But to get something done of quality it's taken quite a long time to get things done. We just got our book from the Existimo show.
Oh.
So I don't know if I'm which camera I'm holding that up to, or if you could see it in my window. But we just got that book just right before Christmas. So, and mine just arrived yesterday after a month in the mail. So, everything is working slowly. Galleries are adjusting to these realities as much as we can. I think here in Mexico City, we have a little bit more flexibility than Los Angeles or even Ventura County, because we're less regulated. So,
Right.
so I could do the gallery shows and have it by appointment. And that's becoming sort of the norm within Mexico City for the time being anyway. So we're all adjusting as we can.
How's the gallery scene down there?
For the last, Mexico City is without culture in a lot of ways right now. So we're all just sort of waiting to see, I think, what happens. Obviously we're producing shows, and we produce the shows into the streets, and we've tried all kinds of different things. And I'm seeing a lot more artwork in the streets, especially in the last month. I've started to notice that many artists are following what I've been doing, which is trying to get as much culture out into the streets and visual work out into the streets as possible. So I think, I think that trend is going to actually increase quite a bit. I've seen lots of exhibitions being posted out into the streets just because of accessibility. People are not necessarily willing to step into a gallery at the moment, although I think we do a pretty good job because of the scale of the space and the amount of ventilation and things like that. I feel fairly confident with it, but it is what it is at the time. So we do what we can do. How are you doing during this whole thing? Because your work requires you to travel to Tokyo. So tell us a little bit about your process and what's going on. Where did this project even come from?
The KIZUNA project came from, I have a friend that's a tattoo artist in Santa Barbara, and he's like a hardcore Cholo. So he has like a Cholo, like the lowrider cars. He's a great tattoo artist. He has like face tattoos, dresses the part. And he, through his cart club that he's in, there's a chapter of it in Japan. And I saw on his Instagram that he went, to Japan and hooked up with some Japanese Cholos out there. So I asked him if it'd be possible that I could hook up with them and snap photos. And he put me in contact with Satoshi. And just through Instagram, he agreed to do it. We met on a Saturday in Harajuku. And I just brought a bottle of whiskey with me and a translator. And we shot for a couple hours, and we really hit it off. We had a great time, but it was just interesting to do something like that. Whole shoot was in about 2 to 2.5 hours, because we met at like 2 o'clock and it was winter. So the sun went down by about 4:30. So we had to just kind of just rush, meet each other, get to know each other, and shoot. And by the end of it, we all went out and had drinks that night and had a great time. So they were really good guys, and I'm still in contact with them as well.
Awesome. And within your website, it looks like there are several different parts of the project. Can you give us a scope of what the overall project is, and where did your interest come from?
Right. The overall, I first went to Japan in 2005, and I had a little point and shoot camera, and that was kind of what set it off. I came back and had some pictures, and people really liked them and had a positive reaction. So I just started going kind of every year, and my wife and I go there as much as we can. She can't travel as much because she's a veterinarian here. She's super busy. Like even during COVID, she's just doing like 12-hour days. But I try to go as often as I can. But last year, obviously, that was not possible. I was supposed to go back and do a second part with Satoshi and those guys in March. But by that point, the travel ban had happened and there was no way to return. So, but it all started back in 2005. And prior to that, when I was a kid, my parents had given me like a little Japanese robot toy, those metal die cast ones they used to make like in the 70s. And just seeing the robot and then the writing on the package, the Japanese language, was just so foreign to me. And I just fell in love with it. And I just started like kind of obsessing over Japanese culture, the foods, the art. And it took off from there. When I finally got to go to Japan the first time, it just like exceeded all my expectations. Like I fell in love with it. And actually got married there. And just every year, my wife and I go, and we plan to retire there as soon as we wrap things up here. But it's just a beautiful country. There's just so much to see. It's, you know, you could go there a million times and still not catch everything. So it's one of those places you can't get tired of going, or at least I can't. So
right. And so I mean, some of the photos are more documentarian of like the Cholo culture. Are you yourself, do you consider yourself Cholo, or do you have like a foundation in the culture itself, or?
I have, like, just through proximity, like I had a family member who went through a Cholo phase when she was younger. Like one of my aunts, she was went through a little phase, so I have that experience. And I have friends, you know, like I said, my tattoo artist friend, and just growing up in Southern California, there's a lot of that culture around. So
right.
Like some people might think of it as like gangsters and gangs and like people that do bad, but like the ones I knew, it's just the lifestyle. It's just the clothing, it's the attitude, it's the cars especially. And to see that Japan has that and they appreciate that, like they go for the aesthetic, like for the look and the dress. And so to be able to see that a culture that I love so much, like being born in Mexico and raised in Southern California and falling in love with Japan, seeing Japanese people that fell in love with the Southern California culture and like the Mexican, like the Chicano culture, basically, to me, that was just amazing. And I just had to document it. But as far as like the other photos on my website, like I started photographing Japan through analog film, because like for me, digital, it's a little, I like it and I still shoot digital, but when I shoot images, it's just a little too clean. It's a little too sterile. And when you shoot analog, kind of gives it a little more character. There's a little more grit to it. And that's kind of what Tokyo is about. Not Tokyo, but Japan in general. Like you can go to Kyoto, you can go to Osaka, but there's just so much character. And I wanted to capture that on film, which is how that project started. So I started that in about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I've had it published in a couple different magazines. So that was fun. But yeah, it's just my Japan analog project. And then the newest one is the KIZUNA, like the Cholo project, which I hope to continue once we can travel again, hopefully at the end of this year, if things work out.
And I know that you said that you only spent you know, a few hours in the process of this, but how easy was it to connect to your subject matter with them? I mean, they seem, I mean, they're pretty open and everything too, but as a photographer, how did you connect with them to make sure that you could get the energy out of them, the meaning that you're hoping to achieve?
Like I said, I brought a bottle of whiskey to give them as a present, and that broke the ice right away, because I saw on Satoshi's Instagram, he likes Johnny Walker Black Label. So I bought a bottle of that, and then we showed up when I met him at the train station. The first thing I did was introduce myself, gave them the bottle of whiskey as a present, and that was it. They just opened it right there and then, because in Japan you can drink on the streets, like public drinking's okay. So they just opened it right there and then, started passing it around. We all started drinking and started walking around and shooting. So
well, interesting enough, you'd think it'd be more free here, but you cannot drink on the streets, as one of my artists in residence discovered. But they were really kind of, they got ripped off by people pretending to be police officers. But so yeah, that's the story of tourism, you know. So
yeah, it was interesting because we were, you know, like they were just walking around with the bottle, like no one's trying to hide it. And we went to there's a really famous, well, it's famous in, I guess, the barbershop culture. One of their friends runs a barbershop called Mr. Brothers Cut, and there's a few documentaries on it on YouTube. But we went there and they gave us Pabst Blue Ribbon beers, but they were Japanese brand. So that was interesting. Like we went all the way around the world to be given Pabst Blue Ribbon, which is a very American beer.
Well, and also it's a very specific cultural beer. It's, I mean, you know,
yes.
Obviously in the Cholo culture, but also I remember, you know, when I was an art student in the early 90s, you know, that mm-hmm. Pabst Blue Ribbon was like the hipster, you know, it's like, oh yes, we're drinking the beer of our forefathers.
Exactly. Yeah, so it was really like, I went with a friend of mine, my friend Tony. He'd never been to Japan before, so he went with me, and we were both just looking at each other when they gave us the beer. We're like, no way. Like, all right. So we just sat there and drank beers with them, and then snapped a lot of photos. And, at first it was a little stiff initially, like, we're all getting to know each other, feel each other out. But after a couple drinks and everyone relaxed and just talking to them and getting to know each other, like, we all just clicked and hit it off. Plus the fact that my friend JJ, who's the tattoo artist, he had vouched for me, so like that carried a lot of weight as well. So once we all met and we all clicked, it was just, the rest of the day was pretty fun. It was really a unique time. Like, the fact that they took their shirts off to reveal their body tattoos, they did that without me asking, because I told them it was the last roll of film. And it was, like I said, it was winter, so it was cold as hell. I have a couple pictures of them with their shirts off, like rubbing their arms together, rubbing their bodies because they're freezing. But they did that, and I was pretty humbled by that. That was really cool that they did that, because I wanted that shot of the actual tattoos, but I didn't want to like be like, hey, take your shirt off in this like 40-degree weather.
Right. Well, I mean, I lived in East LA, well, near east side of downtown in Highland Park for many years. And the Cholo culture is a very big part of the area there. And some of the primary things that I remember about the culture itself had to do really with, not with, I mean, there were the elements that were the gangs, and there were some, issues that arose from that. But the majority of the people that I had interactions with, my neighbors and all, it was really about family, and it was about a way of celebrating culture. You said that you're born in Mexico, and then you grew up in the United States. Where were you born in Mexico?
Mexico City, actually.
Oh, okay. And do you get back to Mexico City often, or?
I haven't been to Mexico since probably before I was in junior high was the last time. Like, I just don't have relatives there anymore. So like, I had great grandparents that lived there, but they passed away quite a while ago. And I have an uncle that lives there. He lives in Guadalajara, but he comes kind of over here and visits. But when I travel, I prefer to use my travel time to go to Japan. So
of course, yes, yeah. It's a little cheaper to travel here, but yes, I understand.
Yeah, like if this pandemic hadn't happened, I would have loved to have gone down and see the show. Like, I've seen the current show that's going, but with the pandemic, I barely leave the house anyway.
Not advisable
exactly.
right now, not for the moment anyway. So when you were talking to when you're talking to the guys in Tokyo, I mean, do they relate to the cultural aspects of it, or is it just purely like a sort of a fashionista, like adopting and just applying looks?
No, it's for sure. It's definitely their lifestyle. It's a choice, and they are very much about family, and that's kind of why I chose the name KIZUNA, because that means bond, like bond between people in Japanese. And it's like the way that two of them, Satoshi, who's the main guy with the fedora and the mustache, and then the guy with the really long beard, that's his student, basically. He's the one he's teaching him about tattoo art. And they are very close. They're very they were all like brothers, basically. And I could see that, like the way they interacted. They had the little pecking order. And one of the guys, the guy in the middle, Yuji, with the sunglasses, he's actually very much into rockabilly, like psychobilly. He plays in a rockabilly band where they all wear zombie makeup for their shows. So they're all dressed up as like these decaying zombies, but they play this hardcore rockabilly music, which was really cool to see. Like he showed me some videos of them playing live, and it was just incredible. But they're all kind of bound together by the tattoo culture. Even if Yuji wasn't a cholo, he's more of a rockabilly guy, but the tattoo culture kind of binds them all together. So that was really cool to see.
Did you get a sense of like how big the community is? And like, is it just within Tokyo, or are there different communities with different styles throughout the country?
It's throughout the country. I mean, like, I know that there's like in Gifu, which is a prefecture kind of like between Osaka and Tokyo. They have friends that are there. Osaka has it. And actually this trip that I went on and shot those guys, like photographed them, the next day I went to Yokohama, where they had this car show called Moon Eyes, and it's like one of the biggest car shows in the world. and there's just tons of like lowrider cars from Japan, Australia, Germany, like all over the world basically. So that's where everyone goes and shows off their like lowrider cars and their custom cars and like custom recreational vehicles like motorhomes and stuff, but they're all tricked out to look just like flashy as hell. So it was really cool, and you got to see the different styles. There's different subcultures, which is what's really cool about Japan. So there's like the cholos, the rockabillys, the just like gearheads. There's just whatever kind of culture you can think of, it was represented at that car show. So it was really cool to see. And like it's the attention to detail that they paid to the cars is a very Japanese attention to detail. Like it's the cars you see here in America, they're really beautiful and they're really well maintained and detailed. But in Japan, it's like the next level. Like they just take it to a whole nother level where, you know, people from here go there to see them and they're just like amazed by it. So it's really cool.
Well, you might think about Mexico City a little bit differently if you came now because of the Trump administration and all the deportation. Many Cholos were deported from Los Angeles, and there's an entire, within a 5-minute walk of here, there's what is now being called Little LA.
Wow.
There's a call center for Comcast right on Monumento Revolucion, and they're and because they speak fluent English, it's the most accessible job for an immigrant to have coming into Mexico City. So they're all there, and they live in Tabacalera, right behind that call center. So and now it's so pretty after living in Los Angeles for so many years. And never over 20 years really ever seeing representation of the Cholo culture here within Mexico City. And even maybe when I taught, we did a exercise on Cholo, Chicano art, and the school shut it down because they didn't feel like it was elevated enough. So it's really interesting now to see the culture coming into here. And I live this area here at the residency and the gallery is all street mechanics. So now we're actually starting to see the lowriders arrive in the neighborhood as well. So it's a very interesting influx of the Cholo culture back into Mexico, and I'm curious to see how it will evolve and affect things. But I am seeing more of the fashion styling of the Cholo culture appear in Mexico City. So.
I didn't know that about the deportation, how it's impacted Mexico City that way with the Cholo culture.
Yeah, I think there's a piece on Vice News on YouTube about that as well. I know I've seen something there, and then like the New York Times has done a piece on it, and during that 4 years, which we should never speak of.
Yes.
Only within historical context to remind ourselves to never let it happen again, I hope. But sorry, no politics. But it's very interesting. So I was thinking it would be interesting to have you come to the residency and see if you could connect with them here and maybe do some, thinking about like what the effects of the comparison and contrast would be like too. Although I think it would probably be more closely, obviously, related to the American version of it. But anything that comes to Mexico becomes intrinsically Mexican. So sushi has cream cheese, it's like food is the easiest way to see it because everything ends up with chili in it. So
what's interesting, like what you're saying, is one of the guys that I photographed, and the guys at the barber shop who I didn't photograph as much, but one of them, he's smoking by the bonsai tree, and he's a famous barber, and he actually has traveled to Mexico City in Mexico to do that guy right there, squatting by the bonsai tree. He's travels to Mexico a lot. The other guy to your left, the guy with the baseball hat, he's traveled to Mexico City to do barber, like kind of like exhibitions, I guess. Like he just goes and he cuts people's hair and people film him and they interview him. And in Japan, he's very popular. And I didn't know that till after I got back home. I photographed him, just kind of, he was there with them as friends, and I liked his tattoos. And then later I got home and I saw these videos of him and stuff. And I was like, oh, like I saw his Instagram page, and he's travels around, the world doing his barbershop stuff, his techniques and his cuts. So I thought that was really interesting. There's a whole nother little culture there, the barber culture, that I could have photographed, and hopefully I'll get to the next time I go. But it's just interesting how these guys through the tattoo culture came together, and there's barbers, musicians, tattooists, like different artists and stuff. So I thought that was like that whole tattoo culture is what brought all these different people together.
Yeah, and as you're saying that, now I'm thinking that over on Londres, just not very far from here, there is actually a, I just was thinking of as a Cholo style, but now like sort of like LA Cholo style barbershop. But now I'm thinking it probably is in some way connected more than I was thinking, because now I'm thinking, oh yeah, they actually make a point of telling you that it comes, like your haircut comes with a Pabst Blue Ribbon, or other domestic American beer, so it's become like a almost like a market, untapped market or something that people are trying to use to express themselves. So
exactly, like what they're doing is the Mr. Brothers Cut Club is, you go in there, you can have like a little glass of Jack Daniels, you can have a Pabst Blue Ribbon, and those bonsai trees are actually upstairs from the barber shop. And upstairs it's a combination of a bonsai tree shop and a tailor shop. But the guy that runs it's got like tattoos all on his neck, all over his face, but he's running, it's really well, like when you walk in there, you would think it's like this high class Japanese shop. And I'm not saying that they're not high class, but I'm just saying the person running it isn't what you would expect. You see this guy with baseball hat and like tattoos everywhere up his neck, and but he has these beautiful bonsai trees. He had one that he was telling me about that was like a couple hundred years old. I'm just like, what? So it was really cool to see like the way they respect their heritage and their culture as well, like the bonsai trees and the art of that. So that was really cool to see.
Well, I hope you get the opportunity to go back there. Obviously, I think it's probably going to be about a year before travel, especially that distance, is going to maybe come back to fruition. But maybe think about the idea of coming down to Mexico City. And you could stay at the residency and discover more about the Chicano culture as it's being interpreted here in Mexico City as well. I'm going to open up the floor to questions if people are interested in chiming in.
Right.
I am going to expand my little window here for the participants, but you should see an option for reactions on the bottom of your screen, and you can send me a reaction, clapping or waving or something like that, and I'll try to unmute you and help you along here. So who would like to ask a question first? I see some people are on video and some aren't. I'm just looking for waving hands or craziness on the screen. Anybody out there? Oh, Steve, okay. Steve, what question do you have for us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Hi, Edgar, how are you?
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm good, good. Congratulations on your exhibit.
Thank you.
So,
and Stephen, you're in New York City, just so he knows, right? Yes. Oh wait, you're in Miami.
Right? I'm actually in Racine, Wisconsin. I don't know why it's showing.
Wait,
otherwise.
when we talk, did we talk to you the other day and you were in Miami and now you're in Racine, Wisconsin?
No, I'm just joining. I'm a friend of Edgar's. I know him from living in California.
I got the wrong person. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. It's fine. So yeah, my question was, I understand that tattoos are fairly taboo in Japanese culture. So I was just wondering if you wanted to comment a little bit more about the reactions you were getting from other people on the street when the guys were taking their shirts off and stuff. That was kind of an interesting story.
Yeah, what was funny was when we were walking down the street, there was, the 5 or 6 guys plus myself, the translator, and our friend Tony's pretty tall. He's like over 6 feet tall. So as we're walking down the street with a bottle of whiskey in our hand, and all these tattoos, like everyone on the sidewalk would just like cross the street or just kind of spread apart for us. Like no one wanted to be around us. When the guys took their shirts off and we're taking the pictures, the police actually started spying on, like watching us, and we had to leave because the police were thinking that there was some kind of Yakuza thing going down. So we ended up having to wrap that shot up real quick because Satoshi noticed that there was a cop kind of hiding behind a bus. There was a couple policemen just kind of like peeping at us. So he was like, hey, we should probably get out of here before the cops come and start harassing us. So we ended up and that was the last roll of film anyway, so it worked out well. But yeah, if a Japanese person has tattoos, it's kind of frowned upon. But if a foreigner has them, they're okay with it, and they're kind of like interested and want to see the tattoos. But if a Japanese person does it, it's not looked on very well.
So does that create a culture that sort of politicizes their choices in terms of like outward appearance and things? Does that politicize what they're doing at all? I don't know enough about Japanese culture. Obviously, in other countries that could be true, but I don't know if that's true in Japan.
In Japan, they're very much, it's kind of like, it's like in the work culture, for example, like the office workers, everyone has to dye their hair black, and you can't have colored hair. You have to wear the suits. You can't really stand out. No one's supposed to stick out. And so everyone dresses the same. And, if you're allowed to have colored hair, then you're probably like an artist, or you're independently wealthy, you're doing something. But for the most part, Japan is a society, they conform very much. And it's like, you don't stick out, you don't cause a scene, you just, follow the rules, do what you're supposed to do. And, for them, it's a little frustrating. But so to see the Japanese guys doing that, like seeing the Japanese Cholos, like that's a pretty big choice. Like that must be hard for them on a day-to-day basis. Like that's something I didn't get to ask them, like if they face discrimination or not. That was something I'll have to ask the next time I get to see them. But like having neck tattoos and tattoos on your head and stuff, that is pretty much frowned upon, because typically Yakuza have like full body tattoos, and they're the ones that have like arm sleeves and tattoos everywhere. So for them to be walking around like that, that's definitely a pretty bold thing to do. And like that probably presents a lot of challenges for themselves, but that's something I need to ask and kind of like look into more next time I go.
I just realized I actually had a studio at H Gallery and Studios in Ventura when this image was the lead of a show.
We probably met.
I think it's probably true.
Jessica was good about introducing people, so I'm pretty sure she probably introduced us. But
it's quite possible. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in at the moment. Yeah, I think what's interesting is how politicized the Chicano culture and Cholo culture is just in the region of Los Angeles, and how politicized it is, and how many of those fashion decisions and things have come from protest and problems with the police and issues of equality, and especially the perception of the culture, even within Los Angeles, is I think it's more celebrated in the region in specific ways, maybe within the Mexican American communities more, but I mean it's become such a big part of the United States culture too. I mean, it just shows up everywhere.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Berkeley's iPad, if you want to unmute yourself. Oh, sorry, I think I just muted you as you were unmuted.
There we go.
There we go.
Hey, Edgar. So,
hey, Berkeley, how's it going?
Oh, it's going good. Nice. I actually have a question specifically about the way the Chicano culture was shown to you in Japan. When I was in LA, when we were studying a lot of Chicano art that was through there, a lot of it was still based on the religious practices that came from Mexico. Did you see any of that kind of crossover into the Japanese culture?
Really, like Catholicism and Christianity is not very popular in Japan. I mean, there are Catholics and Christians there, and you can do like Western style weddings, but the tattoos that these guys in particular had were mostly just like Chicano art. Like one of the guys on his chest, he had like a heart with two cholos, a chola and a cholo making out, but it was like that Chicano like style art. So they do adapt the Chicano art, but it's not like the religious aspect of it. It's more just like the symbolism of the Chicano culture. But you don't see like Jesus or the crosses or anything. At least I didn't with this particular group of people.
Okay, because I know a lot of it previously would have revolved around like Mother Mary and stuff like that, and
Exactly,
that became a huge iconic image through Chicano art. So I was interested to see if that had become adapted in the same way that like Pabst Blue Ribbon had.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that. They have like, Satoshi had a tattoo on his neck that says familia, written in Spanish. Like he has that says familia, and like I said, they have like the Chicano, like, guys with bandanas tattooed on them and stuff, and the little cholo guys with their, their feet standing with like V's, like all apart. But like, I did not see any like religious tattoos or any kind of like iconography there. So it might not have made its way there. Maybe that's just something since they don't know about that religion, they're not going to dabble in that. But it also just may not have come across. So
it would have been definitely it would be an interesting question to ask when you go back again too. I am curious because even the image of like Guadalupe, Virgin Mary, like it's such a huge part of the Mexican culture, and it shows up in Chicano art so much that it is kind of it almost seems like a decision, because I looked online to see if I could find other more information about the representation of the culture, and I saw there's like a couple pieces by the New York Times on YouTube. And I'm just thinking, I was like, yeah, no, they even go to the point of like talking about specific things, and you never saw the Virgin Mary anywhere. I
didn't see that, but I mean, like you said, right around the corner from my house here, there's a giant mural of the Virgin Mary just on the street here. So it's like, it is a very popular, like that's a very iconic thing to do. But like in Japan, at least with this group of guys, I didn't see any religious tattoos or any religious, like their clothing or anything. That wasn't present.
I wanted to show, because there's this, I saw this, there's this little preview. I'm going to turn off the volume. There's this little preview of a documentary that you're working on with Dab Art. Can you tell us a little bit about the project and like what phase you're in of the project and what's happening with that?
I know that they've someone just asked me a question.
Oh.
If I've been to Kansai. No, I haven't. Not yet, but I'll get there eventually.
It's Koyasan.
Which one?
Koyasan.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Where is that?
It's in the mountains, but it's a pilgrimage site for Buddhist adherents.
Oh.
And the entire town is only Buddhist retreats. So you just go there to stay with the monks in different places. But this is kind of off topic from where your interests lie. But it's a beautiful place that doesn't have very many, it doesn't have any technology to it. It's
right,
remote, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place.
Right. No, my wife and I both like to go to, aside from Tokyo, we like to go to the mountain resorts and go to like stay at the ryokans and just stay kind of away from, you just sleep on the tatami mats and you're out in nature. All the food that they serve you is food that they've harvested themselves.
Yeah.
And my wife's a vegetarian, so she always likes to get the Buddhist meals because that's all just natural, like vegetables and tofu and just, no meat at all. So we do like to make trips, and something like that is something I know she would love to do, and I would gladly do that with her. Do you know like where it's located, like how far from Tokyo it might be?
We were living in Nishinomiya, so that makes a point of a triangle between Osaka and Kyoto.
Okay.
And we took the train there, and I think it took about 3 hours, but it's you wouldn't have any problem finding it or anything like that. Koyasan is people make a pilgrimage there, and they also don't serve anything but vegetarian food.
Oh, my wife would love that. That'd be perfect.
And then when you sleep in the actual temple.
Oh,
on
wow.
mats with handmade quilts, and the temples have these huge elevated ceilings, and then each person, so you don't sleep in your room, you sleep in this room.
Okay.
And
Wow.
these natural springs, so
Mhm.
they have those kind of musical fountains that just water pours out of it and it just kind of sings. And
Wow, that's
the idea
beautiful.
is to make you just reminded that you're here to pay attention to your piece. And we found it just an incredibly restful and peaceful place, because Japan is really hectic.
Yeah, no, the big cities can be completely hectic, which is why we like to go. And we went to Nara, and we stayed there, and like we got a nice ryokan out there and got to see the Odaiji temple, and it was just amazing. Like, to see something that's been around for 8,000 years, it blows your mind. It makes you feel so small. Like,
It
but
does.
it's like, and the mountains, the hillside, the countryside out there is so beautiful. It's so different.
It is. And the deer, did you end up feeding the deer?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we bought so many crackers and just walked around today feeding the deers. One of them goosed my wife in the butt because she wasn't paying attention.
Same with me. I got hit in the butt. Yeah.
They're not shy.
No, they're not shy. No.
Yeah, and we saw them. We went into town, and they were actually in the town, and they're like standing on planters trying to get attention, and they're very friendly. Like, people had to like kind of shoo them out of the stores. Like, some of them would walk in when the sliding doors open.
Yeah.
The deer would try to go in the store. They're like, wait, get out.
Well, when we were there, when we were in Nishinomiya, my daughter had to take a train from the Ukema station, which had 6 levels, to her school. Her school was an hour away, and she was 9 years old. She had to do it by herself. We said, if you're going to go, you got to go by yourself.
Ooh,
wow.
And so we made a postcard, and we went with her a few times. She had to take 3 trains and a bus.
Wow.
So we said, we'll do it with you a few times, but then you got to do it on your own. And because I felt like that's what all the kids did, and she should do that while she's there. I'm not going to take her every day.
Yeah.
So the first time she gets to the Ukema station by herself, she gets down to 1 level and she starts crying.
Oh no.
She's crying, and she called me on the phone, and she's crying. And I said, how did you know how to operate the phone? And she said, there's this wonderful Japanese woman standing next to me who doesn't speak any English, but she's helping me. And she said she's not going to leave me until I find my way. I said, what platform are you on? And she said 4. I said, take any train you take from that station will get you where you're going. And she said, okay, Mom. And she hung up. But I've never forgotten the kindness of this woman who just wasn't going to let her struggle or let her be scared, or she just stayed right there with her. It was
right.
Makes you want to believe in humanity.
Yeah,
makes you believe in humanity a little bit more.
Exactly. I mean, I've been there standing in the platform at Tokyo Station, just trying to figure out the map, and I guess the confusion was just written all over my face. And a lady came up and said, "Where are you trying to go?" And I told her, and she's like, "Okay, follow me." And she like walked me way out of her way, put me on the train, and then she walked back to wherever she was going. And just, I didn't ask for help, but she just saw me in distress and said, "Hey, let me help you." And like, that's happened to me multiple times. Just people there are very kind and considerate, and they're selfless. They're just like, "Hey, let me help you out here." Which, here, if you ask someone for directions, they're just like, "Get lost. I'm busy." Don't bother. Over there, we
often, we had that happen to us often. especially in the train station where the cafeterias or the groceries were underneath the train station. And I would go there to try to get food for dinner, and they would just give me something like to try. And I felt like, oh my God, this is the kindest culture. I mean, they just go out of their way to make you feel welcome.
No, I mean, I was on the Tokyo Metro and my iPhone fell out of my pocket while I was sitting on the seat. And I got off the train, and then I realized I'd lost my phone because my Metro ticket was in there, so I couldn't get past the gate. And I thought for sure that was it, like it's gone. And I called the Tokyo station, the lost and found, and they said, no, we don't have it yet. I called 20 minutes later and they're like, oh yeah, some lady just turned it in. Why don't you come down to the station? We'll pay you for your ticket. I go there, they paid my ticket. I get there and they're like, is this your phone? I was like, yeah. Like, some lady found it, went and turned it into lost and found. And I was just like, wow, dude. So it was really cool.
Actually, that's happened to me in Mexico City. I left I was visiting one time, and driving in the States, I always had put my cell phone in between my legs in the seat. And I did it when I was in a taxi, and I left it in there. And then of course the taxi left, and this is before Uber and all this stuff. I ran back to my hotel, kept calling the phone. This guy finally picks up the phone. He's like, oh yeah, no, I have your cell phone. Meet me at this taco stand in Polanco. And I, jumped in a taxi. He wouldn't even let me pay for his tacos. Like, I was just like,
wow.
I mean, this is this is like iPhone 3 times. So, and they're quite expensive. So it was very kind. I mean, I think it's, a part of sort of the human experience, but it's nice to discover that besides your perceptions of, humanity and thinking about that sort of thing, that there are nice people everywhere. I'm gonna circle back around to the documentary that you're working on with Dab Art. If we can talk a little bit about that, because I know everything is delayed right now because of coronavirus and everything, but I'm curious about what the project is and what your goals are for that project.
Right now, as far as I know, Jessica's still working on it. We shot stuff here around Ventura, like at my studio, and on location at a friend's ranch for like a little photo shoot I did up there. And then we obviously have the footage that we went to Japan. Like Jessica and I went there for about a week, and we shot some footage there. And so she's just working on compiling all that. But she, you know how busy she is. She has so much on her plate.
So many projects.
Yeah, like she has, running all these different galleries and all the art shows and all the different artists. So currently she has the trailers going. And actually, while we're doing this, she just sent me a message saying, she sent me a message saying she has something that she just finished up. So I'll see that when we're done here, I guess. She has a new video.
It's very funny because I actually she sent me a message while you were talking at one moment, and I sent a photo of my screens with you on it.
Yeah, I saw that when I was talking. I was like, uh-oh. So I don't know what she has. I'll have to wait and see what the new footage is, or the new, I don't know if it's a little like a rough cut or if it's another trailer, but she has something in store here.
Awesome. Well, I know that I am looking forward to seeing how the show is produced in Los Angeles. Or are they going to do it in Los Angeles, or are they doing it in the Ventura space?
It's at the Los Angeles venue.
Oh, okay, the Los Angeles. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll be curious to see how that works and everything. I know we were only able to print your images about 12 by 12 because at the time we didn't have the larger format file.
Right.
The negatives hadn't been scanned yet. Of course, if we'd known that we'd had all this time, because originally you were going to open up as a part of this Existimos exhibition, and the space that we had 3 floors, and we only needed 1 floor. So we had invited other galleries to do projects in the other 2 floors, and Dab Art was going to present your show there at the time too. It just took us forever. We just kept losing spaces, and the city kept closing down. And I was just like, I can't take it anymore. I'm doing this. I'm converting the residency space. There's no residents right now, so that's how we had been working like project basis and finding alternative spaces throughout the city. But it would be really interesting to have you come down and do a residency here. Someone had asked a little bit about the residency, and I think if I put it into the context of your work, the way the physical residency works is that we determine that there's a match between the artist and the residency, and we can support the project that they're working on. So it would be really cool to have you come, stay in the residency, and then start connecting to the community here to see how that translates in terms of your project as well. So I could totally see that happening.
That would be great. Once this whole pandemic thing blows over, I'd be definitely up for that.
That's just crazy. I can't even stand it. I'm so tired of it. Anyway, that's besides the point. But I do miss having residents in the space and like the energy that it brings with it and stuff too. But we have a loft space that is a featured gallery space for we sort of our collector space. When we have dinners and things, we do a lot of meals with collectors and artists and curators and things where we have small groups of people come in. We feed people wonderful food, throw bottles of mezcal at them. And then, they buy art and make commitments that they never thought they were going to make when they walk in the door. But that's the way it works.
That's the way to do it.
But when we have residents, we put a bed up into the space. There's plenty of space for storage and materials and to work, and then the gallery is the sort of the outcome. Right now, because of the pandemic, we primarily, a lot of the people who are in this today are residents on the online program that we have, and we have 15 people in the residency right now, and we do social events every Monday night called Kiki, where we do studio gossip and we talk about what's happening in our studio, what shows we're working on. People will pose questions and things like that about particular topics, and Kiki is like the brain trust. It's like all the brightest minds come together and we try to solve problems. And then we have our art lab project, which I just started promoting, which is we meet in our studios once a week for 2 hours. The artists are all had proposed a project over a 10-week period of time, and the outcome is a exhibition on Artsy. So what we're doing is we're trying to mimic what would happen if all 15 artists were using the studio spaces here. And so we're being social, we're sharing processes, talking about our themes and things like that, and working towards a goal of presenting a show. So and then we do these visiting artists, and we have all these interviews and various different things, curator talks. We did one a couple of weeks ago with a local curator who has a gallery that focused mainly on urban artwork here in Mexico City, Galeria Union. And then the video did not save, which was horrible. So we're redoing that one again in a couple of weeks, but with a new show. But it's kind of funny. I'm just like, there's so many opportunities in Mexico City to connect in so many different ways and things. So the residency really is about the individual artists and how it fits with the community and the things that we're doing. So, but overall, the theme of the residency and everything is really about community, creating a safe place for people to recover or discover or expand their studio practice, especially during a time when we have so many limitations. Like Edgar, I mean, to have your work so dependent upon location and be so far away from it. I mean, how have you been addressing the frustration of that during the pandemic? Because this just keeps dragging on. I mean,
it's bad. It's like I can't do anything. I'm like I have 2 different accounts on Instagram. One of them is just for the Japan project, and it's been dormant. I can't add anything to it, and it's I'm trying to be creative here and do stuff here, but even I think at the beginning of the pandemic, it kind of took a toll on my creativity because I just didn't pick up a camera for a few months. And it was pretty bad. And then after a while, that got old, and like it came back, and things are better now, and it's good. But it's just it's not being able to travel. I mean, just even locally, like just not being able to go see friends that I have, like in Bakersfield or Santa Cruz or anywhere. I can't travel really to see anybody. And it's, you know, I'm just looking forward to the day when we can all travel again and hang out and do stuff. But it looks like I had a question from Sayak earlier.
Oh yeah, that's what I sort of tied that one in. She wanted to know a little bit more about the residency program in Mexico City.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I took a creative pathway to answer that question.
Well, thank you. That was seamless. Very seamless.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually, I don't think that there's a person in this group here who probably couldn't relay in some way how they've had to adjust to the realities of, you know, how restrictive things are. I mean, even myself as an artist who works with the paper in the streets, there have been no new postings for a year in the streets.
Wow.
So generally those advertisements are layered up and it's all, you know, cultural events and things.
Yeah.
And the only thing that is appearing in the streets are KN95 masks and warning posters from the government, which are, they're not stunning posters. It's not like you can, like there's something graphically interesting to work with or anything too. So, you know, so then you have those limitations that you just keep adjusting to as a part of the studio process. But I think an interesting show might be like, you know, at the end of this, because there's like the Art in the Time of Corona show that Jessica is doing with Dab Art,
right?
Which is just art produced, but like maybe putting an emphasis on the ideal of how the limitations, you know, expanded creativity as well, like thematically, like really focusing on that element of it, because so many people aren't able to access the materials that they would generally access too. So
right, yeah. I mean,
so
it's like for like musicians, you know, not being able to tour, not being able, that's like their livelihood is the touring, and you know, it's just artists in general right now are kind of taking a hit, and it's not just like artists, but the whole world's taking a hit. But it just, in particular, if you make your living through touring or through gallery shows or through things like that, like it's kind of a rough time right now. So, well,
and that's, I mean, I so appreciate you making the time to do this with us, because that's really what we're trying to do. We're just trying to connect people with, you know, other artists, ideas, concepts, visions of what art is, and talk about like, you know, how they're working their way through these moments, and you know, and focus on the future, because I'm always saying, I'm just, you know, I want to keep the momentum moving forward. I don't want to have to regain momentum, and I want to get to the other side of this and just say, yeah, you know, we produced, you know, books, and we produced shows, and we produced, you know, interviews.
Yeah, I had last night I was able to attend like a gallery show through Instagram Live. One of my friends had a show. Eric, he had a really cool show, and it was all like street artists, but they were like, they did these nice pieces that they framed and put in the gallery, and he just walked around and showed the pieces close up, read what the text said, you know, just gave you a nice guided tour of it. And it was really cool to actually be able to experience a show again, even if it's virtually, but it was still really nice to be like, oh, wow, like you get to see the detail of the show, of the pieces, and you get the story behind the piece, and get to hear about, you know, what inspired it, what made it, and how they made it, the process. And it's really something that I, you know, was missing for a long time. And it was really cool to see something like that again. So I like the fact that people are taking the, you know, taking initiative like that and still keeping the art out there, pushing it forward.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think we just, you know, as a community of artists and creatives, we have to be flexible. We've learned to do that within our studios. It's a part of the artistic process, as we're all aware. But I think it's really important to expose that as well. And that feedback loop that we all depend on is broken right now. So as much as we all like to say, oh, you know, I don't care what other people think about my work and blah, 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 everything. The relationship to your work changes when you see people interacting with it physically in a gallery space. So it's an interesting time to only be experiencing things through digital technology and things too. So, but I will say, oh, Edgar, oh my gosh, I have to tell you that when we did the printing of your work, when I did the frame, the printing we did at Cyan Lab in San Rafael, which is very close to us here. They're a fine art printer who works with us and gives us great prices on super amazing quality. And then we take them to Lagonia, Mercado Lagonia in El Centro, which is the original marketplace of, you know, the Aztecs. And there's this framer that I work with, and we were literally sitting there with going through your framed work, and I cannot tell you how many like younger Mexicans like just started surrounding the table, and we're like, what's going on with this guy? Like, who's this? This is really interesting. And it was really nice. So we're holding on to your prints.
That's cool.
And we're going to carry over at least one into the Fotografia 2021, the annual exhibition that's coming up in March.
Awesome.
You know, we'll see. We'll just keep trying to figure out ways to promote the work and get it out there to get some visibility for you. So hopefully that yields something for you. I'm super grateful for everybody showing up today. Thank you for your time, and please feel free to check out the residency online. You can always contact me through that page and let me know if you have any questions about the residency. We have this amazing YouTube channel that has at least 40 interviews and all kinds of different types of content. This is actually Felix Deon is a Los Angeles born artist of Mexican descent who works now in Mexico City. So like there's all, and Fabian Charis is in the interviews, Nelson Morales. We do work with a lot of local artists as well. So please feel free to check out that and subscribe to the channel so that you get notifications when the new interviews. We'll be posting this interview into the YouTube channel as well and putting some things into our Instagram. But thank you so much for coming today and telling us more about your work. I learned more as well, so I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great, and thanks for everyone that showed up. That was really fun.
Yes, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, Michael. Thank you so much.